a recap of summer 2023's biggest movies.
as well as a look at what's coming out in theaters soon.
Welcome
back
to the movies. Hi, my name is Robin Oakman.
And my name is Brett Pettit.
And this is Back to the Movies. For those unfamiliar, Back to the Movies is the newest UTVS show. It is a film discussion show where we talk about the newest things in theaters.
Yeah, and also what we've seen recently and our thoughts on the movies.
Movies new and old.
Yes, new and old.
A little bit of streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's become very big recently.
Yes. Let's just get started. So, summer 2023 was a very big movie season.
Yep. One of the biggest in a few years, especially with the past few years of what happened over the summer.
Yes.
But there were a lot of movies this year. First one out that one may consider a blockbuster was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Came out May 5th, and that was a big summer hit. First Marvel movie for the summer.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, it's a return to form for Marvel, I think, and it's been established James Gunn is, a very bright mind in filmmaking, which is why he's been put in charge of this new DC film universe.
Yes, and on the flip side, next movie to come out was Fast X, on May 19th, which was, I believe, better received than the last one, but that franchise is still, I think, taking a hit, especially since 7 came out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where people's interest in that franchise goes.
Yes.
But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, let's see where DC takes his family next. The next movie to come out in the summer was Across the Spider-Verse, which I was very excited about. But this came out on June 2nd.
Yeah. And, I mean, other than Guardians, which is still sort of like late spring, not necessarily summer, I think Across the Spider-Verse was our first big summer blockbuster.
Yep.
The first film was very critically well received.
Yes.
A big boost to Sony's movie project. But yeah.
Yeah, and this one also looks to be, I don't know what its awards chances are, but it could very well also win many awards. In addition to the film, there was also a short film announced alongside Across the Spider-Verse. It was like a few months ago, earlier this year, which we talked about last time, which is called The Spider Within. Since the last episode, this short film, I thought it was going to air with the movie. It still has not premiered. However, it actually does have a premiere date. It's going to premiere at the Animation is Film Festival, which is next month on October 20th, which is the same day Spider-Man 2 is releasing. So it's a big day for Sony. But I'm very excited to see that short film. I believe, takes place in the same universe. So I'm very curious to see it.
Yeah. And when you say Spider-Man 2, you are, of course, referring to the PS5 game and not an actual Spider-Man movie.
Yes, that is very correct. I should have specified. Yes, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5 exclusively. I'm very excited for that as well. But I digress.
Yeah. So our last 3 films were more oriented towards older teens and mature audiences. We've got something for the family. We've got a kids movie. We've got Pixar's Elemental.
Yeah, that was came out on a relatively busy weekend, June 16th, which was a Pixar flick for the family, which was it started off slow, I believe, at the box office, but it picked up steam towards its end, and I believe it's on Netflix now or Disney Plus.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Wrong service, but.
A lot of those.
Yeah, a lot of them these days. But yeah, I believe it's been generally well received. So good job to everyone on the crew. I know the director's also been a voice actor or worked at Pixar for a while. So
interesting.
Yeah. Next film, also on June 16th, was The Flash.
Wow.
It certainly was the movie.
Was one of the movies of all time.
It really was.
Not as well critically well received, and we'll get to that when we share our thoughts about movies later on. But the long development time for the film itself and certain controversies kind of impeded its release. So yeah, we'll talk a little about it a little bit more. Next is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which released on June 30th. That's one I was looking forward to a lot. Yeah, we'll touch on that, but I was ultimately very pleased.
Yes, solid Indiana Jones entry, number 5. Next up after that was Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. very long title. I don't know if they're going for a competition for the longest title, but this was July 14th, and I I personally I saw it. I love the movie. It did not do that well financially, which I believe is tied into our next uh, movie that we will talk
Yeah.
about, which is sorry. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. The next weekend was probably the biggest weekend for movies in this past summer. It's a double feature,
Yep.
and we're going to defer for the first and more popular entry until later in the show. But the other one was Oppenheimer. So
Yep. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, a very big weekend for movie or big week in for movies, in the past few years, perhaps even. So, but the next film after that came out that we will be talking about is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I'm not sure if it's had a theatrical animated movie in a while, but this Mutant Mayhem was the title, and it came out on August 4th.
that is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yep.
I still have yet to take a look at it, but I heard good things. There's a certain trend of animation nowadays
Yes.
that it takes after people saw Into the Spider-Verse,
Yes.
and it has informed how animated movies are made now.
And it's really cool to see Spider-Verse almost start this kind of like chain reaction because we had Into the Spider-Verse, then a few years later, even just a few months ago, we had Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, or actually earlier last year we had The Bad Guys, DreamWorks, then we had Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and now we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. And it's really cool to see these animation styles kind of move forward. But I saw it in the theaters, and I really liked the film. So even as a not a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, so
Yeah. It's interesting. I think the trend is now people who grew up watching more Japanese animation,
Yep.
like Dragon Ball, it sort of informed that visual style.
yeah, and it's just really cool to see different types of animation. Also, the Spider-Verse short film will be taking, of course, it'll be taking inspiration from the movies, but also that those two films have, there's so much evolution between the two as well.
We are taking our first break.
Hi, I'm not Greg Marcus,
And I'm also not Greg Marcus.
and welcome to Back to the Movies.
If you want to watch 2, occasionally 3, college students talk about the movies they love and hate.
Catch a new episode every other Friday on UTVS at 8 p.m. Also available on Vimeo. So please, join us.
Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get back to the movies.
All right, welcome back. In our last section, we discussed this past summer and some of the larger titles that released. Of course, there were a few more, but now we're getting more into current movie news, and we're actually going to start off with a report from the box office for this past weekend.
Yes, so this is the box office, last weekend, which is September 24th, 2023. The top movie at the box office was The Nun 2. This came out on September 8th, so it's been a few weeks. Its total gross is $200 million, which is very good for a horror movie, especially of that caliber. And it made $8 million in the past weekend. Those tend to burn, I believe, bright and very fast, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're going to be seeing a lot more horror movies coming out in this next month.
yep.
As far as my thoughts on The Nun 2, I haven't seen the first Nun. I've seen like all the mainline Conjuring movies, so the 3 of them. I haven't seen Annabelle either. But yeah. What's number 2?
Number 2 is The Expendables 4, which I did not even know it was coming out. This was its first weekend. It just came out. It came out on the 22nd, and it made $8 million in its first weekend. I don't know if that's good for the movie. I don't know what its budget was, but it made $8 million.
I think that it's probably under
That's what I'm thinking.
what they were expecting. These are big action movies with a lot of big stars with big paychecks. So I believe the third one was not as well received. But maybe Expendables is a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe they do expend 5. I don't know. All right, number 3 was A Haunting in Venice. This came out last 2 weeks ago, which was a relatively bigger flick. It's made $71 million worldwide so far, which was a 50. It was a decent drop. Which I made $6 million in the past weekend.
This is the third in the Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie trilogy. I don't know how many. Considering how well it did, I don't know if there's going to be another one. But that's Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and now A Haunting in Venice.
Yes.
Number 4.
The Equalizer 3. This made $148 million so far in its total run so far. It's been out for a few weeks, start of September the 1st, and it's made $4 million, so it's definitely winding down. I don't know if it's on digital yet, but it'll be coming quite soon.
I have not seen any of these. It's Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
I believe he's a big star.
I also have not seen any of the movies, except on this list specifically, except for the last one, which is Barbie.
We'll have some special guests in to talk about it later. But yeah, Barbie was the big seller this summer, and that's still clear. It's still number 5, in the end of September. So yeah,
it's a juggernaut, and $3 million. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's the weekend's box office. The Nun taking the top spot by only like $500,000. So not a huge weekend, but that's this weekend's box office.
Coming soon to theaters, or already in theaters partly. Dumb Money, which is the GameStop stock movie.
Yes, January 16th. I don't know what day. It was 2022 January when the whole GameStop stock thing happened. I will be seeing this. I believe I'm going to see it on Friday. I've been very excited for it. I love Paul Dano. Seth Rogen's in it. It's got a very, very big cast relatively for the movie. So I'm excited for it. The next movie coming out, it is a movie, but not in the traditional sense. This is the Eras Tour, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. She's releasing it as a movie for a few weekends, and it premieres October 13th. I was looking on the theater's website, and there's a bunch of sold-out showings. So,
Taylor Swift is a very large driver of economics.
Yes.
If people, I know we've seen this recently, if Taylor Swift is involved at all, the Swiftie mob is going to throw their money at it.
Yes.
Yeah. There's actually something coming up this weekend.
Yes, that is The Creator, which is by Gareth Edwards, which is the director of Rogue One. I was actually looking at his filmography, and this is the first one he's put out since Rogue One came out in 2016. So it's been a while since he's put out a film. But this is looking to shake up. This is shaping up to be a big film for him.
The main topic of the film is artificial intelligence, which we've touched on in science fiction, but from the way people have been talking about this, I've heard it compared to Alien 1979.
Wow.
And even Star Wars. So Gareth Edwards, I think, is a very talented director. I remain cautiously optimistic. But yeah. We'll speed run through streaming.
Yes.
Ahsoka, the Disney Plus series, is running. I'm a big Star Wars fan. We'll get into it more just a little bit. I mean, certainly there's nothing on this table to indicate that I like Star Wars. But yeah.
Next up is Gen V, which is airing on September 29th. I'm a huge The Boys fan. I started watching season 1, so I'm so excited for this. It's a spinoff, but I'm super excited for it. It's going to be good. Next up is the premiere of Rick and Morty Season 7.
Before we touch on Rick and Morty, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but we'll discuss a few more streaming things right up after this.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
It's important to get a flu shot each and every year because flu viruses are constantly changing and immunity from the vaccine decreases over time. Flu vaccines are updated annually to work against that year's viruses. The best time to get your shot is in the fall, but getting it later can still help. Getting a flu shot lowers your risk of getting sick, and if you do happen to get flu, it's likely to be less severe.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back. When we left off recently, we were talking about big streaming titles. Three more that we should touch on. We started on Rick and Morty. I have not watched Rick and Morty, I think, since like season 4. So this is season 5.
7.
7. What happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, are you looking forward to that?
I enjoy. It's something I would watch with my brother whenever it premieres. So it's kind of like, you know, we enjoy watching it. I'm not gonna. Oh, he's Rick and Morty. I'm very curious to see the new voices and see how that plays out. But I'm excited for the season and see how many seasons it goes. I don't know. We're on 7. How many more they can?
100 episodes. Rick and Morty.
100 episodes.
Rick and Morty.
Next up is Loki season 2.
Yeah, so Rick and Morty premieres on the 15th. Loki is coming up on Disney Plus on October 5th. So Ahsoka, the Disney Plus series, ends that week as well. So and Disney Plus is really good about scheduling these sort of things. Like where one show ends, there's another one that's going to pick up. So Ahsoka has its last episode next week, and then Loki starts up. This Loki, I think, is going to be pretty monumental as far as this phase of the MCU is going.
Yes.
Lots of multiverse, lots of time travel. I like Tom Hiddleston in the role, and I'm glad that he has been able to keep doing it for as long as he has.
Yeah. I'm glad he's been able to. He really seems passionate about it, and I'm really happy for him, and also very excited for it on October 5th. And
yeah. This is not on a TV series, but one thing that is hitting Disney Plus as well is Haunted Mansion, another summer title, but it didn't perform as well, I think, as Disney might have hoped. They have some misses here and there. I think the last one in recent memory was probably like Mary Poppins.
oh yeah.
That's like a few years back, but
Yeah.
sometimes it just doesn't go well, and sometimes people aren't as interested in the IP because Pirates of the Caribbean did well, but there's not much else to that. Like you're gonna make more movies out of rides, and older IPs. Anyway, my section to talk about what I have been watching recently. I'm gonna start off. In May, I watched the 2000 film Battle Royale. This is what sort of kicked off the genre of teen violence, I guess is how you describe it. It's all these students are placed onto an island and they fight each other. So kind of inspired Hunger Games.
Yes.
I think Suzanne Collins, the author of the Hunger Games, has mentioned that before.
Yep.
Battle Royale it was a novel to begin with, but I watched it. It hasn't aged amazing in the effects department, but it's pretty strong storytelling. It's very, very philosophical, and like it's weirdly funny to watch because you're watching 15-year-olds attack each other and whatnot. But it was brutal and it was entertaining. But as far as like the practical effects and everything, it was pretty well done. There was just like some of these straight up 23 years ago. Certain effects weren't great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, My next one, also in May, was A League of Their Own from 1992. Really good. I was really surprised with how much I liked it. Baseball movies always tend to do sort of well. You have Field of Dreams. You have 42, which is the biopic for Jackie Robinson.
Sandlot.
Sandlot, yeah. Benchwarmers. There's a whole list, and people like baseball movies, and I was really, really impressed by that. One small note I have is they have these like newsreel sections where it's like, these women are playing baseball while the men are off at war. And the newsreel narrator is the voice of the principal, Simon Skinner, on the Simpsons. So I was really shocked by that.
That's funny.
Other surprising things that I was really impressed by was Hans Zimmer's score.
Really?
Hans Zimmer is now recently more well known for his work with Christopher Nolan, so the Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar. But it's larger than life. It's big band music, and I was really impressed by it. I watched Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This came out earlier this year. As a D&D player and a DM, a dungeon master, I've been running a Dungeons and Dragons game for about 3 years now, and I think this is what we needed. There was not as well received Dungeons and Dragons movie a few decades ago, and I think this is what you need. Like you get Chris Pine, you get Michelle Rodriguez to play a barbarian and a barbarian. And they go on an adventure, and I was really impressed by it. All the practical effects were really impressive. Sophia Lillis was also really good. She's known for being in the It movies recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But she played a tiefling druid, so she wild shapes into beasts and things. I hope to see more of these.
Yeah, I was just to say, I hope they make more of them.
When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about Brett's thoughts on movies he's watched.
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Best crowd in college hockey. Best atmosphere in college hockey. This is what it's all about.
Again, so far, St. Cloud getting an opportunity here. Cooper scores! Turnaround shot, Chelsea. They score!
To guarantee a spot, and we put ourselves in a good spot. There we go.
Welcome back. We're going to be hearing about what Brett's been watching.
Yes, so I also had a very busy summer watching movies and television series since I had a lot of time. But my first movie I watched this summer was in June. I already talked about it earlier. It's my favorite movie in like a long time is Spider-Verse. This is my item I brought for today, as we will every show. Robin's is the Lego set.
I should touch on this.
Yes.
This is the New Republic E-Wing from the Ahsoka series. The ship itself was originally in the Legends continuity. It had a big dorsal laser cannon, but they brought it back for this series because they're doing Heir to the Empire, Thrawn stuff.
Yep.
And I'm really impressed with it. It was a fun build, and it looks kind of like a plane, and I thought that was neat. I like starfighters. So you might be seeing more of these as the series goes on.
Many more starfighters to come.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna buy that soundtrack on CD. I just haven't ordered it yet, so this is the only thing I have. It was like, if you come see the movie, you get the ticket. But yeah, besides Spider-Verse, I've seen many movies. I've seen Spider-Verse like half a dozen times, but I also saw Extraction 2, which is on Netflix. This is a sequel to the Chris Hemsworth movie that came out in like 2020, right at the start, of the pandemic. And I think it was a very solid flick. They had a very, very incredible action sequence in the middle of the film. And it's like the logistics behind it, I cannot imagine, but I was very impressed with it. It's like a long one take. I won't describe the scene, but it was like a 1918, but not the whole movie, of course, but it's like a one take, huge scene. I digress. I love the film. After that, I decided to take a step back from a high action flick.
You mean 1917?
Oh yeah, 1917. I'm sorry, I was 1 year off. But yeah, after Extraction 2, I decided to take a step back and go for a more calm film. I saw Elemental, and I really like it. Not the most game changing movie in the world, but solid Pixar flick, and that's all I needed. That was the only thing on my checklist, and it got that done very, very well. Next movie I saw was Nimona. Now, this was a Netflix release. There's a whole backstory with this movie, with its production. It originally started at Blue Sky, then Blue Sky got shut down, then Netflix picked up the movie, and then they were releasing the movie. So I've been following this movie for a long time, and I'm very happy to see it finally released, and I love the film. It's got a very great art style, too, which also ties into the thing we were talking about earlier with Spider-Verse really influencing. I don't know if this had a direct influence, but the art style it's very stylized, which I love to see in movies. Movies have more personality, and the story was just so amazing. I love the film, and yeah. Next movie I saw was I believe it's an international film. I don't even know how I found it. It's called Mavka Forest Song. I don't know how I found it, but I thought it was a very good movie. It is about I don't even know how to describe it. It's about these people who live in a different realm of a forest, and they are different nature elements, and it's kind of a story of people coming in there trying to take their resources and them fighting back.
You said it was an international release. Do you know the country of origin by chance?
I do not. I am going to look it up right now to find it out. I want to say Turkey, but I don't know.
Interesting.
But sorry, Ukraine. My bad. It's Ukraine. It's a Ukrainian film. So very cool to see films coming out of Ukraine like that. So very, very cool. Next movie I saw was also a calmer film. It's DreamWorks released a film this summer, Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. I saw this with a few friends, and it's just a fun film. I was supporting DreamWorks, and they do a bunch of cool stuff. So yeah. Next movie I saw, I was like, all right, I got to get some action back in here again. I saw Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I love the Mission Impossible franchise, and I was excited to see Tom Cruise get back in it. I loved Fallout. It's so good. But this was also an amazing film. Action, of course, it's Mission Impossible, so it's going to have great action. And I just really like the film. I'm excited for Part 2. The ending was a cliffhanger. Not as big of a an ending as another film that I saw this summer, which I won't say because that kind of spoils the film. But let's just say it has a very high number in its name. That is getting let's just say that. The next movie I saw, which we talked about earlier, was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I've been Indiana Jones. It's Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones. Love Harrison Ford suiting up one last time, putting on the hat and the lasso. It was a good film. I love Indiana Jones. Phoebe Waller-Bridge did a great job, and very, very solid film. Loved it. Great popcorn flick. That next film I saw was one of the films, as we discussed, of all time. It certainly had the script, and it was The Flash. I certainly saw the film with my own eyes in the theater. I did see it in theaters. I don't really have much to say on this film, so I won't say much on the film. But it finally released, which it's been in development for a while. So.
Yeah. My one small thought about it is the CGI needed some work.
Yes.
And CGI video effects artists work very hard, and there are actually groups unionizing within under Disney and MCU. But it was very rubbery, especially in the scenes where you had two Barry Allens right next to each other.
Yeah, and I believe the director made a comment about it, saying it was a style or it was a creative choice or something. I don't believe that.
next, we will have some special guests talking about the biggest movie this summer, Barbie.
Hi, I'm not Greg Marcus.
And I'm also not Greg Marcus.
And welcome to Back to the Movies.
If you want to watch 2, occasionally 3, college students talk about the movies they love and hate.
Catch a new episode every other Friday on UTVS at 8 p.m. Also available on Vimeo. So please, join us.
Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get back to the movies.
Welcome back to Back to the Movies. Obviously, we're different people. My name's Julia Werner.
I'm Maya Fryckman.
Yes, we're here. We're here to talk about Barbie specifically because I told Robin and Brett, I said, you can't have Barbie. You can't talk about Barbie without letting me talk about it. Because I'm, like, probably the biggest Barbie fan. I've seen it, like, 5 times.
What?
Yeah.
I only saw it the once, so...
Okay.
Well, sorry.
Whatever. Let's just start breaking down some numbers. I have some numbers here. I'm a numbers person. I want to compare Barbie versus Oppenheimer just real quick. So Barbie's budget, $145 million. Oppenheimer, $100 million. Okay, so you got a $45 million difference. Did that pan out? Yeah, that extra $45 million, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Because Barbie made $1 billion. And Oppenheimer only made, I think I read, $552.9 million.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It is what it is. People liked the Barbie movie more than the bomb movie. I did not go see Oppenheimer, but that's as far as my knowledge about it goes, is the atomic bomb.
I fell asleep in Oppenheimer, not gonna lie.
Whoopsies.
Whoops. But there were some really good creative decisions in that movie. Greta Gerwig is a genius. I mean, you look at Lady Bird, you look at Little Women. I mean, she's probably one of my favorite directors of all time, and she's only got 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
I read somewhere that she was worried the Barbie movie would ruin her career, and look at how it panned out for her instead. This was a very impressive movie, and I loved it. I loved it.
It was a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
Big risk, because
for sure
you're putting the back of a children's toy company on you. You're putting a children's toy company on your back, and basically saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna screw up your product here by making a movie that's probably completely different than what you would think anyone would making a Barbie movie would make."
Mm-hmm.
I thought a Barbie movie was an animated movie.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
2000s.
When I first heard, or I should say when I first watched the trailer, and I see some of the adult jokes they're sprinkling in, I'm like, okay, what is their target audience? Because I watched all the Barbie movies as a kid. I had the little camera doll that they picture in the movie as one of the weird Barbies. I had that as a kid.
I had the pooping dog.
Oh my God.
I had the pooping dog in the matching set.
Actually, I did too. I had so many Barbies as a kid. But regardless, Barbie was a big part of my childhood. So I was like, wow, this is kind of risky, adding an adult element to it. But I do think they did it in a very creative way. And I think it went over the heads of most children. Not to speak for children, because I'm obviously an adult.
But yeah, it a lot of those jokes went over kids' heads. I mean, one big joke that probably went over most kids' head was the relationship of a certain Alan and a certain Ken. That was clearly a relationship that was something that it was obviously something. It was meant to be something. Mm-hmm. Michael Cera, a genius. Ryan Gosling, a genius. I much probably even though Michael Cera was in it and he was great, I still think the choice of Jonathan Groff almost playing Alan
dear.
would have been an interesting insight to see. I would have loved to see that. I think especially if we could have gotten an Alan song, like we got a Ken song, that would have been perfect.
I'm just Alan.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. But anyways, the casting choices. The casting choices have been an interesting part from the start. I mean, Margot Robbie was not supposed to be Barbie.
No.
It was supposed to be Amy Schumer, and then I think you said it was Gal Gadot.
I read somewhere that she was like considered for the role. I don't know that she ever anything like went past that, but I know she was in the running to play Barbie in the movie.
Okay, yeah. So there was a couple different casting choices. Obviously, interesting choice. Simu Liu as a Ken, Chris Evans' brother as a Ken. Marvel connections all over this movie, for sure. But the pure heart of this movie is and always will be women's issues. Like that's all it's ever gonna be. It's a movie that touches a lot of women and makes them kind of think about their moms or think about their grandmothers or think about who they are as a woman. I think the biggest part of that is Gloria's speech. I have the speech here. I highlighted some parts that I think we could talk about. So here's a line. Like, we always have to be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you get pushed down so much.
A lot of her speech, like, very much resonated with me, not just as, like, a woman, but just as a person in general. Like, standards are set very high for people, and unfortunately, they're unreasonably high for women. I know it's taken me a lot to excel in my workplace because I'm a woman in, like, a technical field, and it's kind of been hard breaking that glass ceiling, but I've put in the hard work, and Gloria can obviously speak to that with her speech, and it's very well written,
It's a fine piece of work by Greta. Another line is, you have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. It's absolutely insane, the stuff she goes through. Just one more line before we kind of get out of here. But never forget that system is rigged. So if you find a way to acknowledge it, or acknowledge that, but always be grateful.
Yeah.
You have to be grateful for what you want.
I do want to mention, someone mentioned this to me when all of the reviews were coming out about this movie, especially coming from men who are like, oh, this is so damaging to the image of men. How dare you? I was told when you're so accustomed to privilege, equality looks like oppression.
And that's a really good point. We're going to wrap it up on that. But yeah, thanks, Brett and Robin, for letting us on talk about this movie.
Hi, I'm not Greg Marcus.
And I'm also not Greg Marcus.
And welcome to Back to the Movies.
If you want to watch 2, occasionally 3, college students talk about the movies they love and hate.
Catch a new episode every other Friday on UTVS at 8 p.m. Also available on Vimeo. So please, join us.
Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get back to the movies.
Welcome back. We just completed our segment from our friends Julia and Maya. We thought it was important. A movie like Barbie, about the issues that it addresses, we really wouldn't have felt comfortable without actually getting, a woman's perspective on it. So, yeah.
Thank you to both of them for coming on the show.
Thanks. Anyway, let's get into my thoughts. Just touching back on Dial of Destiny for a second.
Oh yes.
what I wanted from that movie was something better than Crystal Skull, and I think that's what we got.
Yes.
So I was very pleased with it. I thought it's a really good bookend for the character of Indiana Jones. But yeah, I don't think the IP needs to continue. If they decide to do Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character Helena, it could be interesting.
A Disney Plus show, I'm sure there's some executive like, oh, it could be like, but we'll see if that happens.
Probably not. Anyway, what else? Over this last summer, when we recorded our pilot episode, I said that I had only seen one Mission Impossible movie.
Yes,
Over the summer, with my newfound Paramount Plus subscription, I watched the first 5 Mission Impossible movies. So I'd already seen the 5th one in theaters, but I'm just gonna give my quick thoughts on H1. Mission Impossible 1. It's really hard to judge a franchise on its first entry, especially when the franchise is over 20 years old at this point.
Yes.
And like, I'm not going to compare Mission Impossible to Star Wars, but I'm comparing it right now. Like, Star Wars 1977, Episode 4, A New Hope, holds up on its own. Mission Impossible 1 also does that. But Mission Impossible, I think, has the problem that Fast and Furious does, in the sense that every movie, the stakes get bigger.
Yeah.
And technology and special effects improves. But, like, the first Fast and Furious movies, they're stealing, like, DVD players from a semi-truck.
Yeah.
And now they're in space and whatever. So Mission Impossible 1, like, really solid movie, really solid direction. Like, the shot composition is a little bit more... it's smart. Anyway, Mission Impossible 2. People don't like this one, and there's a good reason why. But when it comes to ironic enjoyment, which I'll discuss our rating system for a second here. We haven't mentioned our ratings, but it's a scale based on enjoyment. So 1 to 10 is a good movie. So 10 being the best movie possible, and you really loved it. 1 being you hated it. But there's also a negative scale for ironic enjoyment. So the example I used was Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It's very silly. It's very bad. But if you watch it with friends, you'll have a great time. Mission Impossible 2, I got a great amount of ironic enjoyment from it because it's just ridiculous. Like, the director... It inspired, the Matrix, the Wachowskis for the Matrix, so the action is very similar. So there's a lot of backflips and punches, and Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's character, like he's kicking around sand. It was really silly. Things explode. Sometimes things don't explode, but they're exploding more often than they are not. But it was frankly ludicrous. Mission Impossible 3. My rating for Mission Impossible 2 is thumbs down. It's kind of a bad movie. The director has never been asked to come back and do another Mission Impossible movie, but I gave it a -7 out of enjoyment because I had a great time, even though it was not great. So yeah, Mission Impossible 3 I did not like as much. That it's J.J. Abrams, and you can tell by the direction and the way that the shots are done. It's fine. I've written down, it's fine. The action is fine. My like standout moment from the movie is near the climax of the film. Ethan Hunt, there's a long take where he runs down like alongside a river in Shanghai, and that was pretty cool.
I've seen it. Yeah.
It's also when Simon Pegg joins the series.
Yep.
And I love Simon Pegg. We might talk on the Cornetto trilogy someday, but I really enjoy it. And all of his other work in like Star Trek and
I should just say, correct me if I'm wrong. The Mission Impossible films were numbered up until 4, or is it 5 when they got subtitles?
So 4 is Ghost Protocol.
Oh, okay. That's right.
I don't know when they stopped saying the number of it, but I think that might have been 5.
Okay.
Anyway. So yeah. 3 was fine. Mission Impossible 4, I think, was a return to form. The stakes get bigger. There is the amazing stunt that Tom Cruise does, and the entire series is about Tom Cruise doing stunts.
Yeah.
And almost dying. but he's suspended by a cable, like running around the Burj Khalifa, and some of that they did practically, some of that they didn't. But Tom Cruise is always like, "Hey, director, can I do this thing that might get me killed?" And the director's like, "Sure."
Christopher Nolan is like, "You can do it, but I don't know if we can get it insured."
We'll talk on Brett's thoughts on movies after the break.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right seat.
It's important to get a flu shot each and every year because flu viruses are constantly changing and immunity from the vaccine decreases over time. Flu vaccines are updated annually to work against that year's viruses. The best time to get your shot is in the fall, but getting it later can still help. Getting a flu shot lowers your risk of getting sick, and if you do happen to get flu, it's likely to be less severe.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back. Brett, what have you watched?
What have I watched? I've been watching a lot. Continuing on from where I left off. I don't even remember. Oh, I was talking about The Flash. Well, actually, I'll touch on Mission Impossible. I started watching Mission Impossible like around the 5th one, or I was told to watch it, watch number 5 first, and that's where I started, and gosh, those movies are so good. I digress. I was talking about The Flash. Next movie I saw in the summer, which is one of the last things I saw during this summer, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't seen like a full Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Like I saw one of like the live action ones, like early 2000s or whatever they came out.
Not the Michael Bay ones.
Oh, maybe the Michael Bay one. I didn't know there were multiple.
There were 2. Well, I think he directed the first one, but he only produced the second one.
Really?
But, yeah,
okay.
You can tell that Michael Bay was involved in the production of those movies.
I remember the very scary, realistic, it was very, let's just say I was too young to see them. Not that it's whatever. So, but yeah.
Note here, he only produced 2 of them.
Okay, he only did. Okay, gotcha. But I love this movie a lot more than the live action ones. I've talked about it already, but the art style is so charming and it fits so well with the aesthetic of the movie. Seth Rogen has been on a roll lately. He does not miss. He's got The Boys, Gen V coming out soon, Invincible. He does not miss. So I'm excited for what's next for Seth Rogen. I'm hoping they make more of these. I know there was talk about another movie and maybe a series. I don't know. Just make more.
Brett, I don't know what you have next on your list, but we should talk about Andor.
We should talk about Andor. Yes.
So I watched it when it came out. It came out around the same time as House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones spin-off series. So it was like for like a good few weeks, it was just like I got to watch an episode of Andor and I got to watch an episode of House of the Dragon, or like sometimes I'd flip-flop, but like just really great television.
Yep.
This is what we want from Star Wars a lot. And like after it was a really big surprise after, Obi-Wan Kenobi it was good, but it wasn't what people really wanted.
Yeah.
But Andor, like practical effects, practical sets, and then just really good action, really good writing. Tony Gilroy did some writing for the Clone Wars series, but yeah.
Yeah, I like what Rob was saying. After okay, Book of Boba Fett, okay, good, Obi-Wan. So I didn't watch it when it first came out. I actually rewatched it this past summer. That's on my list for. I just waited a year, I guess, so I can. There's less of a gap between me waiting between season 1 and season 2. But I digress. So good. My gosh. I got chills so many times during this series. It's incredible.
Please just watch it. If you have a friend that has Disney Plus, watch it.
Watch it.
If you don't like Star Wars, maybe watch a couple of the movies and watch Andor, please.
Mm-hmm.
because it's really good, and we're gonna get a second season probably next year. It might have been a little bit delayed, but we will get it eventually, and it's gonna be really good, and it's gonna go right up into the events of Rogue One.
Yes, direct prequel to Rogue One. I'm so excited to see Tony Gilroy. Gosh, it's just such an amazing show.
So good.
Okay.
Okay.
But yes, also I watched a lot of stuff that summer. That was actually, I think, one of the later things I watched in the summer. Earlier in the summer, on I believe it was May the 4th, Star Wars Visions Season 2 premiered. I watched the first half of it and I really liked it. I just never finished the other half of the episodes. I know they're each standalone, so it's not like I'm missing half the narrative, but it's really cool to see like the different art styles and how different people tell their different Star Wars stories. It's just really cool. I love the first season. It's just really cool to see.
For those unfamiliar, Star Wars Visions is Lucasfilm goes to an animation studio and says, hey, if you could make a Star Wars thing, what would you do? Overall, I think the second season was not as good as the first, but still pretty solid and a lot of really good ideas. One of my favorites was the Aardman one, because I grew up with Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run, and it was really good.
Yes, the Aardman one was, I know a lot of people's like, I want to see the Aardman one. But yeah, I love Visions. It's really cool to see. Hopefully they do more season 3. Next thing I watched was Succession. Now, I have not finished Succession. I've seen up to season 3. But HBO, my gosh, it's incredible television. So I love the series. It is the business side of this firm, conglomerate that could be compared to many other large companies today. And kind of the family aspect and how they run it. I can't describe it accurately, just kind of have to jump in. It's completed now. They aired the finale. It's 4 seasons, 10 episodes a season, like an hour an episode. But HBO, they got it down. Just incredible television. And yeah, next thing I watched was on Apple TV Plus. This is called Silo. This is produced by and starring Rebecca Ferguson, who is in the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, and she was also Lady Jessica in Dune.
Yes, that's correct. Dune's coming out soon as well, the sequel. I digress.
It actually got delayed to next year.
Oh, did it?
Because of the SAG-AFTRA strikes, which screenwriters have reached a deal. Actors are still on strike, but we support it because we want the people that make the movies and TV that we love to get a fair wage for it.
Yes, we want them to be compensated correctly. But yeah, Silo. Oh,
sorry. When we come back from the break, you can finish up on Silo, and then we will talk about this day in cinema history.
Yes.
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair into hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Best crowd in college hockey. Best atmosphere in college hockey. I mean, this is what it's all about.
Again, so far, St. Cloud getting an opportunity here. Cooper scores! Turnaround shot, Chelsea. They score!
To guarantee a spot. And we put ourselves in a good spot. There we go.
Welcome back. Brett, you go ahead and finish up on Silo.
Yeah. Silo is a sci-fi series. Rebecca Ferguson. It's just incredible. Apple TV's got some incredible hits on there. Severance, please watch Severance. Silo, please watch Silo. But yeah, I love Silo. But that's the end of my thoughts for the summer.
So our last segment is it's a little bit shorter one, but we are going to discuss. It's a segment on Back to the Movies.
Yeah.
This day in cinema history. We looked. There weren't a lot of movies that came out on September 27th. One notable one, I guess, was Sweet Home Alabama, starring Reese Witherspoon from 2002, I believe.
Yeah.
But other than that, today is Gwyneth Paltrow and Jenna Ortega's birthday. Gwyneth Paltrow is well known for being Pepper Potts.
Yep.
In the Marvel movies. I would be remiss if I did not mention her role in the television series Glee as a fun substitute teacher.
Yep.
And then Jenna Ortega plays Wednesday in the Wednesday Netflix series, and also was in the most recent Scream movie.
Yes, she's Scream. She's big on there. So happy birthday to both of them, I guess. In more local news and information, there's movies being shown at the Atwood Theater here on campus.
And that is specifically for St. Cloud State students. You do need to present your ID. But yeah.
If you're not a student, it's $5. You can go to the front desk and buy a ticket. But the movie that's being shown this weekend is called Joyride.
It's a fun story that centers around Asian women and some action and hijinks.
Yeah.
But I did not see it when it was in theaters. I will probably take a look. Another mention for Atwood Theaters is they do offer popcorn, candy, and soda.
Yes.
So please go. If you are a St. Cloud State student, present your ID. You can also bring one guest.
Yes. The concessions are free, I should mention, when you go. So, yeah. Go see the movies.
Thank you very much for watching our first episode of Back to the Movies. We hope you get back to the movies, and we hope you have a great day.
Yes.
Hi, I'm not Greg Marcus.
And I'm also not Greg Marcus.
And welcome to Back to the Movies.
If you want to watch 2, occasionally 3, college students talk about the movies they love and hate.
Catch a new episode every other Friday on UTVS at 8 p.m. Also available on Vimeo. So please, join us.
Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get back to the movies.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Best crowd in college hockey. Best atmosphere in college hockey. I mean, this is what it's all about.
Again, so far, St. Cloud getting an opportunity here. Cooper scores! Turnaround shot, Chelsea. They score!
Efforts to guarantee a spot. And we put ourselves in a good spot. There we go.